Today is April 7th, 2020, Tuesday of Holy Week. My name is Paul Alcorn. Each day this week, the Reverend Laurie Krooss and I will share an image and a reflection of an event in the final week of Jesus' life. The images are frescoes painted in a chapel in Padua, Italy, by the Italian artist Giotti. Today's image is of the fresco of Jesus washing the disciples' feet. The account of this story is found in the Gospel of John, the 13th chapter, verses 1 through 13. It is a longer narrative, but goes something like this. As Jesus and the disciples were gathering to celebrate the Passover, Jesus poured water into a bowl. He then knelt before each of the disciples and washed their feet. When he was done, he says to them, "So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have set you an example that you also should do as I have done for you." As someone who has lived his entire life north of the Mason-Dixon line and east of the Mississippi River, I have spent my entire life wearing shoes and walking on sidewalks. I only washed my feet when I took a bath or a shower. For the longest time, while I knew the story, I didn't understand the meaning or the importance of Jesus washing the disciples' feet. About 15 years ago, that changed for me. I spent time in Nicaragua helping to build homes for families who lived in very substandard housing. Being close to the equator, Nicaragua is always hot. And being an underdeveloped country, the roads and paths where we worked were dirt, and it was always dusty. After working all day in the heat and dust, I watched as the masons with whom I had worked take off their shoes and sandals and put their feet in a bucket of water. When I followed their example, I was amazed at how refreshing and renewing that felt. So now back to the gospel, and to Peter and James and John and the other disciples in that upper room with Jesus. I am sure this was not the first time the disciples had washed their feet. I am sure that at the end of a long day of walking or working, they did the equivalent of putting their feet in a bucket of water. But I am also sure that it was probably the first time that someone had knelt in front of them like a servant and washed their feet for them. Cool water, strong hands, washing and massaging away the dirt and the fatigue of the day. Such a luxury was known only by a select few, those in power, those with enough influence and money, those who owned servants, certainly not the disciples. The disciples were fishermen, day laborers, common, poor. Could it be that the example Jesus gives by washing the disciples' feet is not just one of serving others, but of lifting people up, treating those too often overlooked or looked down upon with a respect and a dignity usually reserved only for that select few? I wonder. As those of us who have made the commitment to follow in the way and in the footsteps of Jesus, as we walk through these days of Holy Week towards the mystery and wonder and celebration of Easter, how is it that who we are and how we live and how we treat others lifts them up and affirms their dignity and recognizes and celebrates their worth? Extending our hands and reaching out our arms until all are and all know they are, included in the circle of God's love. As a reminder of who we are and who we are called to be, join me as we say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.